Alright, so this is now take 3, because holy fuck, everything in this universe does not want me recording this video. I had a wonderful day. I was relaxed, I was sleeping most of the day, and I've been drinking most of the day. I had the day off of work, so yeah, that was pretty nice. But I wanted to talk about Gobekli Tepe and academia and how fucked academia is. The first time I tried recording this, uh, I guess there was not enough space in my phone. And the second time I tried recording this, I dropped my phone because a bug was crawling on me and I tried to squish it. And I did squish it. And so hopefully nothing else bad happens and I can actually get the fuck through this fucking video. Okay, Gobekli Tepe, 12,000 years ago, allegedly made by hunter-gatherers, definitely not fucking made by hunter-gatherers. Why do I say that? Because hunter-gatherers don't do that shit. Hunter-gatherers don't have the energy requirements, they don't have the food reserves, they don't have a reason to stay in one place for a prolonged period of time. They don't, hunter-gatherers, both ancient and modern, every hunter-gatherer civilization that we have documentation of, all have the same traits. They are all nomadic because they follow the herds and the seasons. They follow the growth of the plants. They follow the herds because that's where their food is. They don't stock up on food. They don't stockpile food. They carry just enough food for themselves for a day, maybe a week. They don't. In order to build a structure, you need at least a year's worth of food for everyone. And that's not something you get with a hunter-gatherer civilization. Hunter-gatherers do not build structures, especially not permanent structures. They also don't have tools for building structures, but they do have tools for hunting and gathering. Gobekli Tepe, we have a permanent structure about 3 football stadiums big that was deliberately buried in thousands of tons of soil. We have tools that are not meant for hunting and gathering. If you look at the timeline of the past 40 years, you can actually figure out why we think that they were a hunter-gatherer civilization, and it has nothing to do with any actual evidence that we found at the site. The reason why we think they were a hunter-gatherer civilization is because of a timeline that we conceived of before we discovered Gobekli Tepe. And Gobekli Tepe should have been proof that that we weren't all hunter-gatherers, or at least that not every civilization on Earth was hunter-gatherer at the time. However, because of this, something went wrong with people's fucking heads, and instead of adjusting the theory to account for the evidence, they just went, okay, well, how do we fit this new evidence into our old theory? It's anti-science. It's anti-science to try to fit contradictory evidence into a theory that is disproven by the evidence. And it's a hypothesis, not a theory. One thing that really gets me, you have a group of people who can move thousands of tons of soil, but they can't till a field. They can build massive structures out of stone, including scraping away rock in order to leave an imprint of a fucking chameleon or whatever the fuck it was. But they couldn't figure out that you put a seed in the ground a couple inches down and it grows into a plant. This is not sane. Academia wants you to believe psychotic bullshit that has no basis in anything. It doesn't have a basis in the evidence. It doesn't have a basis in the logic. It doesn't have a basis in anything. Anyone who's looked into archaeology or anthropology can tell you what I'm saying is legit. The only reason why we believe that they were hunter-gatherers is because of how old they were. Because we had a timeline and we couldn't just, change our timeline to be okay, there was an agricultural civilization 12,000 years ago. The evidence says it. And, another thing, Sumer was about 8,000 years ago now. The very first records we have from Sumer were about 8,000 years ago. The beginning of Sumer, they had domesticated corn, domesticated grain, domesticated peas, domesticated beans, domesticated cows, domesticated pigs, domesticated sheep, domesticated dogs. Do you have any idea how many thousands of years it would take to attain the mutations necessary to have all these domesticated things? It couldn't have just been like 500 years before Sumer popped up on the historical record. It had to have begun thousands of years prior. I say about 7,000 at the least. Gobekli Tepe is proof that we did have agriculture 12,000 years ago. So, fuck it. But I had an argument with a student at Johns Hopkins University about this shit, and they just kept going, oh, you need to learn how to think about this stuff. I know how to think about this stuff. I'm explaining to you how to think about this stuff. You don't get a giant structure that has astronomical alignments and, the most intricately detailed carvings that you have to actually scrape away the entire rock except for that one little spot in order to make from a fucking civilization that can barely feed itself and is constantly on the move. Anyway, that's really all I wanted to say. Academia is fucked. It contradicts itself. It is not rational, and it destroys thought. And we need to do something to fix it. People are not smart just because they go to college. Thanks for watching. Peace.